What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Smoking Tire Podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Off the Record. You know about Off the Record because we've been talking about it for literal years over here at the show. Basically, Off the Record is a service that connects you with qualified attorneys in the correct jurisdiction to fight that bullshit ticket that you just got, right? So if you get pulled over, if you get a ticket, don't panic and don't plead guilty. Get Off the Record. Go to offtherecord.com/TST or download the Off the Record app and use code TSTPOD, TSTPOD. Either of those methods will get you 10% off all legal services booked through Off the Record. They are amazing at what they do. They have a 95% success rate, and if they don't get those points off your record, you don't have to pay a thing. All right, on this episode, it is a cruise show. We talk about the Ferrari Purosangue, the V12 powered crossover, driving it in the canyons, and a bunch of interesting things that happened in the canyons over the weekend. We do a little analysis on the WhistlinDiesel Cybertruck video, and we talk about hybrid turbochargers. We talk about our best full throttle pull experiences. And we discuss if the Nissan Z is really worse than the Toyota Supra, even though I think in some way it's better. Plenty of great questions from the Patreon today on this episode of the Smoking Tire Podcast. Of course, we have the video version of the podcast on YouTube, and you can play along at home by joining patreon.com/The Smoking Tire Podcast. It's a cruise show. Let's go. My Mondays are the most filled with anxiety.
Right.
For sure. My Mondays and my Fridays between noon and 3 p.m. Because if you don't, because Friday afternoons, if you don't get an email in by 2 o'clock East Coast time, it's not even like it won't get responded to until Monday. It won't. No one will see it. It'll just go way down buried. It gets buried in the inbox. Mm-hmm. So as much I love going up to fucking Good Vibes Friday morning, but that drive back where it's I'm sitting in traffic for an hour and not at the office and just thinking about all the things that need to be done by 2 o'clock that may or may not get done. And I've had a bunch of coffee up there, some extra.
You should just bring your laptop and then stop at the bottom, hit some emails,
dude,
eat a snack.
I've had that thought so many times, and then I don't do it. No, so many times I've been that's the thing to do, is to clear out the inbox before that drive back.
Yeah.
But I just it doesn't. Then I get down the mountain and I'm like, just get back.
Yeah, well, it's because it's half an hour down the mountain, half an hour home.
It's an hour home from the base of the mountain usually.
Oh, yeah, I would stop.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. I don't know.
Try it next time.
It's one of those things that I keep telling myself I should do, and I don't do.
Just bring your backpack with your computer.
I had it. It was there.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I've had it. Every time I go, I physically have the tools.
Oh, man. Look at it like a positive. You can get to the bottom. You can go have a nice brunch somewhere.
Yeah.
And eat food, and you'll think more clearly.
Yeah.
And you'll be less anxious. And
that's probably true. There is an element of hanger in there also that probably has something to do with it.
You'd be sentencing people unfairly if you were a judge.
Because I eat breakfast early, because we're going up to the mountain. I leave my house at 6:30. So I'm having eggs at 6 o'clock. I'm then having 3 coffees probably over the course of that morning. And then going back down, I'm starving.
Right.
It's hot.
Yeah.
And I'm about to hurl myself into an hour of traffic.
Yeah, and then you order food here and you wait for it to arrive. It doesn't arrive till 1, and then you're really stressed
then
all
I'm
the
just
way until 1.
Fucking freaking out.
Yeah, you should just stop at the bottom and have a breakfast at any of the places.
I quit smoking weed to avoid this anxiety, and yet here it is.
Well, but we talked about this before.
It was mostly the caffeine
contributing factor.
Yeah, it was mostly the caffeine.
I mean, because you have a lot going on anyway. So even if you did not drink caffeine, you'd probably have some anxiety about stress.
Some. Yeah.
But you like to help it. But I get it. Up there at Good Vibes, man, it was like I'm always tired. I'm not a morning person, so I'm just like sipping coffee, trying to be conversational and friendly to people who I like, but I'm just tired. So
yeah, and I also need, you know, my coffee beverage as like a social crutch. Something to do with my hands.
Independent activity.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Otherwise, you just stand there.
Otherwise, I'm
with your arms straight.
What do I do with my
Molly
hands?
Shannon or whatever in SNL. Yeah.
Yeah, basically. But we went up there this past Friday. R.I.P. Nicole. We love Nicole. It's very, very sad.
Yeah. Nicole Ryan, one of the founders, essentially, of Good Vibes Breakfast Club.
Passed away from MS. I never knew her before she had MS.
Same.
So it was like, 10 years maybe decline, probably. Very sad. Also a little bit of relief because she was in a lot of pain at the end. Big celebration up there. Lots of cars, lots of people.
It's the busiest I've ever seen it.
Just about, yeah. I think that there was one weekend where it was like more of a shit show, but it was like, I think like Luft weekend or something, or a reason that like everybody was in LA, but still super busy and early. We got up there early and it was busy early. So everybody was like, I better get up there, you know, first.
We were there at like 8:20, which normally it's pretty thin.
Yeah.
And I remember 10 minutes after we arrived, a line of 30 cars pulled in and filled a different parking lot, and then people just kept showing up. But it was really great. Like I think most of the people were there in support, even if they had never met Nicole. They kind of like knew that vibe was going on.
Right. And but on the way up there, fuck me.
White BMW man.
Fuck me.
Yeah.
The bad driving that was happening going up there was driving me fucking insane. First we had a line of 3 cars that were going very slowly.
Yeah.
There was like an S2000, some kind of BMW, and a Cayman GT4. In driving, it was like a Civic Type R, right? There was a Civic Type R. There was like a BMW M2, and then a blue GT4 Cayman, and they were going super, super slow, which is fine. Totally fine. Everyone should drive a pace that they feel comfortable driving. But canyon etiquette dictates that if a whole bunch of fucking cars are behind you, use a goddamn turnout. I mean, it's not like it's either you're either just never looking in your rearview mirror ever, which I think is impossible. If you're driving, it is impossible to not look in your rearview mirror. But you have decided that your speed is the speed.
Or they think they're leading a parade. They're like, look at all these people with me. They've all just joined in.
Well, maybe there's that too.
But I think, we're usually close enough to someone's bumper, not dangerously, of course, but like social cues.
There are social
we'd
cues.
We'd like to get by now.
Which and I sat there behind the third car in this line for what? 10 miles? The whole time. Starting at the middle of Upper Big Tujunga all the way to Newcomb's Ranch, 10 miles. Got to be 10 miles.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
Right? But a bunch of cars piled up behind me, too. So now I'm fourth in a line of like 10 cars. And this white BMW, was it an M3 or a M4? It was an M4.
M4
or maybe,
or 335, I don't know.
It's an F80 of some kind. Then was behind me and got so frustrated with the pace of the people in front of me that he proceeded to make 4 incredibly sketchy passes on the double yellow, like real shady.
Yeah. One was on a double yellow straightaway, but then immediately after that pass was concluded, as the turn started, they just kept going. No, they kept going and they went around the next car, which was like, ooh, that's a turn. And then 5 seconds after that, an oncoming came by.
Yeah.
And then we were commenting on how dumb this pass was. We went up 3 more turns, and then as we got to that outdoor hiking area, which is a huge right-hander that is blind. Yeah. It is a long sweeper's blind. They made the final pass past the final slow car.
Yeah. And on the outside of a right-hand sweeper.
Yeah. It was
super
so dumb,
shady.
So stupid.
And there was a lot of oncomings coming that morning as well, because a lot of people were up there just the fucking worst driving. I mean, it was like, and there's actually, everyone is responsible for what they're doing in their own car, right? And if someone's driving slow and you really want to drive fast, I just wanted to get up there. So it wasn't about, oh, you're preventing me from having my fun. I mean, it was, but if what I wanted was to have fun and they weren't letting me by, I could sit in a turnout myself and then go the speed I wanted, okay? But I just wanted to get there, so I didn't do that. We'd already driven the Purosangue fast a bunch, so I didn't give a shit. But partially, the three cars that were going really, really slow together and not using turnouts to let traffic by, that's bad canyon etiquette. But then the seething road rage anger that had built up in this white BMW driver that resulted in these four consecutive super shady outside passes is like, that's his fault too, but like that's the direct result of people not using the canyon etiquette. It's a little bit of like what were you wearing? But...
Well, yeah, I blame, the slow driver 20%, I don't know, 50%.
Right.
I'm very cautious to blame them at all because I know someone on the internet's going to yell about it. And ultimately, it is the white BMW driver's choice. And the choices were very dumb.
Yeah.
And the thing, we're responsible for our own driving and our own safety. But when you start either going way too fast and you're out of control, anytime you could cross double yellow, either you understeer because you're going too fast or you choose to because you are impatient or you think you're awesome. That is when, 2 weeks ago, there was a head-on between a Subaru and a Ford F-150.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you could hit a person who's up there hiking or going to work or in the car community, and maybe they share your enthusiasm, but they didn't want to get hit in the face by a 4,000-pound car that day.
Yeah.
Like, you start impacting someone else's life, and that's when you're a shithead.
Yeah. And so the message is don't fucking do that. Mm-hmm. But also, if you're driving at the speed you want to drive and there's other people that want to go a little quicker, use one of the many, 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 many turnouts. Sit there for 3 seconds, let them go by, and then continue the pace you want to fucking continue.
Yeah. I've done it. I've pulled over, like, whoever's behind me has a faster car or
Dude, I
just
move out of the way for people all
the
time.
Have a good time.
I have zero ego about any of this shit, and I literally either give people point buys and if maybe you get a point, there are places where it is physically possible to make a safe pass, but the lane, it's still a double yellow. And so I'll inch in towards the right line and I'll give someone a point by. I'll let off, slow down, give them extra room and let them go by. Like, fine, you want to go have fun at your own pace. Like, have fun at your own pace. But like, man, just like people unaware of what's going on and causing frustration behind them, which results in fucking people without any kind of self-control acting like selfish, fucking dangerous shitheads.
Yeah.
It's like it's like you said, it's 10-20% the slow drivers and 80% the guy driving like a real shithead. Mm-hmm. But like the combination of the situation.
Yeah, it's just really bad.
Yeah.
I'm glad nothing happened because it was, it'd be bad any day, but like we're on the way to a memorial. Let's not create another one.
Yeah. So. And fucking coming back, I went to Porsche Santa Clarita Cars and Coffee on Saturday. And coming back from that, I was going over Little Tahunga Canyon. And I saw, the section, if you're coming back south from Santa Clarita back towards the place we like to eat breakfast at. Mm-hmm. As you cross the peak of the hill and you're starting to come down, there's that place with a great view and sort of the nice sweepers. Mm-hmm. Right there, before that big super tight hairpin with all the graffiti. So, sorry, it's a little local, but I'm just trying to explain to Zach where this was. As I come around, I see something off, and there's a motorcycle on the fucking cliff, like laid down on the cliff, and there's no one around the bike, and there's another bike like 100 yards up, stopped, and as I get there, there's a guy off the cliff, like below the cliff, like waving, and I'm like, holy shit. And so we stop, and I'm like, everybody alive? And there's like, yes, alive. And I was like, what's going on? He's like, he crashed, obviously. I said, is he hurt? He goes, I think so. And there's no cell service up there. And so I was leading a group of like West Side members. There's like 5 of us. So I go, what do you want me to do? I go, I can stay here, or I can race down the hill and call EMS. And the motorcyclist goes, call. So I fucking rip it down the hill like as fast as I can drive, pretty much. Recognizing that I'm leading group of people, but still, get down the hill, fucking call EMS, say where he was, smart enough. If you're going to report something, remember the mile markers.
Yep.
I remember the mile markers, 14.4. And I called, and as I was getting to the very bottom of the hill where the restaurant is, the helicopter was flying right back over me.
Oh, they sent a helicopter?
Yeah. Way faster to just send the chopper.
But wow.
Yeah. And you could land a chopper at the graffiti turnout.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's that big.
I mean, it's big enough for like a small, like maybe not like a fucking giant Huey, but like a small helicopter. You could
That's great.
Yeah. So like that was like, woof. That's a reason to drive really, really fast down the hill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's,
Scary stuff. I hope the guy's okay. Obviously, there's not really a way to follow up. They didn't call me back, but they don't tell you, by the way, the guy's all right.
They'll find you on IG, maybe. Dude, when I crashed, my friend had to drive till cell service.
Yeah.
It was like 10 minutes down the road.
Yeah.
And then they sent a helicopter. Like,
Long really 10 minutes.
Not for me, but for my friend, yes. Yeah. I mean, that's the benefit of like some of the, Verizon has a satellite phone now.
Yeah.
But I've never used it. I just know that it has.
So my phone had that SOS shit.
Yeah.
I tried to use it. It didn't do anything.
It didn't? It's supposed to register your call, and then it will start text messaging you using like satellite connection, and it'll ask your coordinates and what's going on. But I read that before I went backpacking. I have not used it.
I tried. I mean, it said SOS, right? When you have no service, it says. Right. So I tried to call 911, and nothing happened.
Oh, shit.
So I don't know if I just don't know how to use it. Maybe I should look up how to use it. And I was thinking, I was wondering if there was some kind of there might be I mean, I know satellite phones are really expensive. Mm-hmm. But like, there might be a reason to have one.
I mean, you can rent them. Like my dad used to rent them for backpacking.
Yeah.
For when he'd go with his friends. But it's a weekly charge. I mean, you can buy one, but they're expensive.
They're really expensive, right?
Yeah.
Oh, and they're heavy.
Yeah, they're big.
Like laptop big,
no,
like old brick
like
cell phone?
Like water bottle with an extending thing. I'm just saying, like, I don't think your average motorcyclist would buy one and subscribe
a motorcycle.
To it. Yeah.
I'm talking about fucking me having one. Just to be the guy who's got one.
Sure, it's not the worst idea.
I have to like look into how much they actually cost, but it seems like there's been a couple of times where I've had to be the guy who races to cell phone service to fucking help somebody.
Sarah and I are going to do a wilderness wilderness survival course in the coming year, but you can add on a day that is wilderness EMT certification, which I'm very excited to do because someone who showed up when I crashed was a wilderness EMT because it's up in the Colorado mountains and like they helped stabilize me and like I don't want to be in that position and be like, I'm Superman, but better to know and if you're there, so it's a good skill to have.
Yeah, for sure. So anyway, we were driving the Purosangue up there when the bad driving was happening, and interesting vehicle. It's better by being worse, meaning like fast is fat. Oh, here we go. Apple use emergency SOS. Oh, allows you to text emergency services. Oh, oops.
Yeah.
So how to. Using a 911. Wait. Go up a little bit.
Thing.
If you can help. Oh, detects a crash.
Sorry, I thought I saw instructions that said if you press the two buttons, it starts a countdown, and then if you don't cancel it, it will then start contacting emergency services. All right.
Maybe I should probably. Everyone should learn how to use the SOS function on your phone, not just me. It's there. Learn how to use it.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
We can put a link in our description.
We'll save that. You need to be outside the clear view. Okay. Well,
anyway,
we'll have to figure out how to do that.
I thought it'd be a quick review.
So the Purosangue.
Purosangue.
The Purosangue.
Purosangue.
Yeah.
Give me that Ferrari Purosangue.
It's that's what happens if you fucking get hit by the fucking BMW crossing the double yellow.
Right.
They make a little fucking
with crowd on it. Sauerkraut.
And what's
and
red and white
was made.
That's a Russian dressing, the red and the white.
Thousand Island.
Yeah. So it's got a V12. That's the thing, right? So so if you want to everyone has not everyone, but many people criticized the Urus for not using an Aventador engine, right? Or any of the high-end super SUVs for not using more exotic engines. The DBX for not using the V12, right? Because after all, the Lamborghini LM002 used a Countach motor. That's like the thing, right? And the other cars are using like fairly boring, 4-liter twin turbo V8s, and they're all like kind of the same. So this one's got the V12, and it's mounted entirely behind the front axle. So it's actually a front mid-engine V12.
Right. It's like 49 front, 51 rear weight distribution.
Yeah. It's also got a torque tube and a rear transaxle, which is pretty cool.
Like a Corvette.
Yeah. Or an 812. And so it's a little funky looking. It has some good angles and some less good angles. I think the rear 3/4 is pretty good.
Yeah, I like the front too. I think the Roma shape and the Roma fenders, Roma inspired, they work for me. But, as you move around it, there's a lot of lines, there's a lot of creases going on, and some of it, like dead front low is a little busy, but they got to get a lot of air in there. They have all these different sensors and things. But overall, I think it's a pretty cool looking car.
I think it's the broad side angle isn't great. The direct 90 degrees on the side, it's a little awkward, and the wheels look a little small for the rest of it, even though they're fucking 23s.
Yeah.
But it does have some good angles. And with that, 750 horsepower V12, it's got the right sound. And with the Ferrari gearbox, in that way, it does feel very much like a real Ferrari. It's not platform shared.
Right, it feels unique. It doesn't feel like, you get in an Aventador or a Cayenne. They all kind of feel RSQ8-ish and shared a little bit. And,
if you drive an Urus if you drive an Audi RSQ8, you'll never be able to drive an Urus and go, this is something. It's so the same. Mm-hmm. All the platform shared cars and not being platform shared, like a DBX also, which is not platform shared, it's very expensive to do that, and it's also a way to make it feel more like its own thing. So this is the most non-platform shared because the DBX uses the Mercedes powertrain.
Right.
So this is all Ferrari.
The benefit, or one good thing about the DBX is it used Mercedes UI system, which was a little older, but as we'll get to, sometimes that's actually okay.
Right. So dynamically, to me, this feels a lot like if an 812 just was lugging around 1,500 extra pounds. Mm-hmm. The basics of 812 dynamics are there, but they're more muted and less crazy. It is fast, but compared, we just recently drove the Lucid. The speed is so cheap and commoditized now. I'm driving a fucking Mach-E Rally right now, which I just pulled out onto the main road in front of my house and just punched it. That's faster than the...
because the torque power band of the Purosangue is so high up. Like, you really need to rev it to 7.
Right.
It redlines like 8, but you need to take it up there to feel like you're going fast. Because the other SUVs we talked about make all the torque down low. These twin turbo V8s, hot V, there's so little lag.
Yeah.
It kicks in super early, and an electric car, of course, kicks in even earlier.
Right.
So you have to subscribe to the joy of the theater of the engine, and I want to rev it out, because it's funny. Sometimes we complain that engines rev too low or the power is delivered too low, and you go, well, I kind of miss that experience of flooring it and building power. This does that.
Yeah.
But it's competition.
That's what I'm saying. It's better by being worse. Mm-hmm. It's objectively worse to use a naturally aspirated V12 for a crossover that weighs 5,000 pounds.
True.
But because they do it, it's more exotic, it's more differentiated, it feels more like a, quote, real Ferrari, and therefore it's better. And that's pretty much why this thing is more expensive than all other crossovers ever.
Yeah, some combined in some cases.
Yeah, right. I mean, this is like 2x Urus.
Yeah.
It's 2x DBX.
With our options, you could get 2 Cayenne Turbo GTs and maybe have money left over for tires.
It's crazy how this thing has 186,000 in options on it. So it's 576 out the door for this car, and it's red. I mean, imagine if you spec'd out 200K of options on a McLaren, it would be like chroma flare, transitioning, paint, some crazy 200K in options on a Lambo. It would have 4 different colored seats. Like it would just be it would look ridiculous. This thing is red and black. Mm-hmm. It's not. It doesn't look like the option money has just been absorbed into the car and like isn't reflected by like looking at it.
Yeah, well, a lot of it's inside, and then there's a bunch of carbon additions too. I didn't look closely at the one Jethro had up there to see what was different. I know that ours had a full carbon interior and his did not.
The carbon interior is very expensive,
stuff that
and I might skip that in this vehicle. But yeah, it's subtle, the stuff that this one had. It's not a flashy build. I mean, it's red, but red black in the context of Ferrari is not flashy. That's just sort of what's expected.
Yeah.
But dynamically, as we learned, it's very nice.
It's very impressive.
It's nice.
It's really impressive. It's really fun.
Yeah.
It's fun to hustle. I mean, it weighs 1,200 pounds more than the 812, but it hustles, man. We were on open road, straight road, really tight stuff, and it figures all of it out. There's a lot of computers happening.
Sure.
It's got this clever rear steer system and this clever suspension we'll talk about. But the steering feedback's pretty good. The steering ratio is not too quick. I think it's just right.
It is.
The brakes are good.
Yeah.
And it was a fun thing. Like if you went to a canyon, you wouldn't be feeling bored. You wouldn't be feeling like you're just too behind the ball. I think.
It would be great for an alpine, trip in winter. It would be great for Colorado mountains. It's good in our canyons and the semi-hydraulic system. And I say semi-hydraulic because it's 48-volt hydraulic as opposed to Porsche's 400-volt hydraulic. So basically, you can feel the suspension resisting against the body moving. So if there's a big dip in the road or like a speed bump, the suspension will just like disappear that. But it doesn't disappear the little cracks and imperfections in the pavement. It lets that stuff come through. So like Porsche's can disappear like everything. It makes it like a cloud.
The hydraulic
Panamera,
stuff. I've not driven
Panamera
that,
hybrid or the Taycan, that is probably more capable of like keeping the body insulated from whatever's happening below. But this one, there's a bunch of like bumps on the roads that we went on, and also pulling into driveways that are like where it's a big angle transition. That was perhaps the most impressive. Like pulling into my own driveway, like where it's like a lip, you know what I mean? The body stays flatter and moves less than almost any other car I've ever driven in that situation.
Yeah, that's what I noticed in the canyon. There were a couple sections where mid-corner there would be a long dip in the corner, not a sharp moment. But we know it's there. We felt it before. And it cut the motion of the body in half, or maybe even more. We went through it and I went, this is like being on a boat that is just muted the waves we just went over.
Yeah, we
really
talked
wild.
about the Seakeeper.
Yeah.
The Seakeeper in a yacht, which I did a video where we used one. And it's crazy. The Seakeeper is a gyroscopic device that comes in a million different sizes, from about the size of a beach ball to about the size of a Volkswagen. And it's a heavy-duty gyroscope that literally will stop a boat from rocking in the ocean. Like, it will stop it, which is unbelievable. It's like the coolest thing ever. And this feels like it has that.
Because what this has is it has, Multimatic has its spool valve, but it also can change its height really quickly.
Yeah.
So the spool valve allows the valving of that controls the fluid passages to change. So how fast is that fluid going to go through these passages determines how quick the shock is going to compress or uncompress. But then it also has an electric motor in it that spins a bolt that changes the height of the shock. So that's how you get this thing where it knows there's a dip coming. It presses the wheel away from the body, fills that hole essentially, and then returns back to, let's call it neutral, so that you don't really notice it that much.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Really, really wild. Guys, got to take one quick break just to tell you about all the things we are selling. We've still got a few examples of the Notice Canyon Night Sky in dark blue. That's the watch collab I have done with the kind folks at Notice, designed and assembled in LA. Unbelievable quality, this watch. And you can get it over at noticewatches.com. That's NODUSWATCHES.com. There's only a few examples left. It is a very limited run, and I absolutely love this thing. I'm so proud of it. I designed it. They made it. We're talking about it, and that's over there. Plus, the WCCS hats that I wear pretty much every single day, all day. Blue embroidered hats with a flex fit design, very comfortable, are available in our store, thesmokingtireshop.com. That's thesmokingtireshop.com. Get them while supplies last. And now back to the show. And it is good. Like, it's a very good, it's a very, very good system. And also, what's good is, like, there's plenty of room in the back seat. Like, I could sit behind myself, which is cool. The suicide doors allow for a large back seat, but with a small physical door.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
I like that a lot.
It's a lot easier to get in than you think at first, because when you open that thing, the opening doesn't seem that wide.
But it is easy.
It's really effective.
Yeah. Which I like. It's the first Ferrari that I've ever been in that really comfortably holds 4 people.
Yeah, the FF wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's for the Lusso.
Although my client at the shop here has a Lusso, and he lives in another country, but this is his Los Angeles car, and he just brought the car back to go get put away because he's flying back home to where he lives. This, I should have taken a picture. He folded down the rear seat. The amount of luggage that came out of the back of this car, it was 2 huge, like, checked bags, 2 carry-on roller bags, 2 backpacks, and like 3 shopping bags. It was an enormous amount of luggage. It was so big that when the Uber came to pick him up to take him to the airport, they had to fold down the third row in the Suburban.
Whoa.
Like,
wow.
I was like, hang on a minute. They're going to have to reconfigure this Suburban to fit the amount of luggage you just pulled out of the back of an
props
FF.
for him for actually using that car.
Yeah. It was mad
That's
Tetris.
Cool.
Yeah. Guy's a heavy hitter.
That's
awesome.
rad.
Yeah. But the problem with the Purosangue is that this is supposed to be a daily driver type of vehicle, right? And in terms of how it actually drives, okay, could daily, no problem. The tech, even though Ferrari is incrementally improving it, like, they're incrementally improving this steering wheel that they're doing. It's better than the Roma, which is better than the SF90 before. The SF90 was unusable.
Well, that didn't have a lock. To explain to people, it didn't have a lockout mode. So the whole steering wheel was covered in haptic capacitive buttons. But if you bumped them with your knuckle, it would activate that thing. And then with the Roma, they made it so you have to touch a button to, like, activate the controls, which responds most of the time. Right. So this is a little better.
And the 296 was basically the same as the Roma. This is slightly better. They've added a couple of little scrolly wheels on the back of the steering wheel for some stuff. But the UI is horrible. It's so bad to use. It's so clunky. And the idea that it's illegal to use your phone while driving to change the music, but that you're expected to use this system while driving to perform the same function is crazy. This is so much harder than a phone.
Yeah, there's no screen in the center of the stack. It's only in front of the driver and in front of the passenger. So if you have a passenger there, they can touch screen control these things. But if you're the only one driving, as we experienced, like, just changing from Apple CarPlay to satellite radio, like, you have to activate the steering wheel, then you have to select using the one of the arrow keys. That little menu,
it looks like a Nintendo D-pad.
And the font is pretty small, and you have to move it over, click it, and, like, it takes a lot of steps and you have to be very precise with those capacitive buttons because it's not a thing you press. You have to tap gently the right spot. It's really busy.
And if you pull up the CarPlay screen, there's no native nav, which is fine because I'd rather there not be any native nav at all than a bad one. Your CarPlay screen becomes the entire gauge cluster, basically the entire gauge cluster, and you lose the tach, and then if you put the car into manual mode, it doesn't give it back. Like, it's an LCD screen. You could put a tach anywhere. You could put any shape, any size tach anywhere on this screen. But, like, you're going to have a Ferrari in manual mode with no tach because CarPlay is on the screen? Like, come on.
Yeah, I mean, ours had the steering wheel with the lights on the top of it, which are super helpful. But I agree, if you have this whole screen, Porsche's done a very good job of this, and some other companies too, where they'll just go, all right, the nav is off to the right.
Yeah.
You don't need it to be that big, and then the rest of the gauge cluster can have the other information.
Yeah, so, I mean, even if the nav is the center, on the left side it shows your speed, and then it says auto or manual. Like, it could put a small tach that was like, the size of a silver dollar. They just gave you some basics. They could put just the literal 4-digit numbers that went up, and changed color. It's a screen. You could put anything. It's not like they don't have that information. But, like, when you put a Ferrari into manual mode, you need to have a tach. That's just crazy.
Yeah.
That was nuts. And CarPlay is free. It's included. CarPlay is finally free. But the wireless smartphone charger isn't, which is crazy.
And I mean, the hockey puck, so the way you control most of the systems for comfort, but temperature, seats, massage seats, heated cool seats, is all through this hockey puck that is flush with the dash. You press it and then it rises up this obelisk, and then you can control it, which looks really cool.
It does.
Remember when the Jaguar had that for the shifter? Yep. Like, it's a big thing. But it's a little, maybe you get used to it if you own the thing and you use memory seat, you don't activate it that much. But if you do need to change something, fan speed, where the air is going, defrost versus on your feet, like, it is, again, a slow process. You have to be precise with where you touch it, and it takes so much time off of the road.
Yeah.
So I think it's got a lot of cool theater to it on the one hand, but if this is trying to compete with Range Rover and other things as your do-everything crossover SUV, those do a better job of that. I think most owners of this car will probably have a bunch of cars, and they go, all right, this is fun. It's a fun toy that just happens to hold 4 people. It's not like sports cars, we're kind of used to this.
Yeah.
But this is like, you have to make some of the same considerations, but it also seems like it has some of the practicality of an SUV.
I will make considerations for a very extreme car, but this, to me, is just a great driving daily car. And so I wouldn't want to make those concessions.
I think it will be interesting to see how many folks keep these for a long time because it has all of these asterisks.
Yeah.
But it's special, it's cool, and people like to drive things that are special and cool. But how long will it take before these things bother them, or if they do at all? I don't know.
I wonder how many will be gifts for trophy wives that just show up so that the husband can get an allocation for something else.
Right.
I put on our Instagram, what do you want to learn about it, when I drove this car, and I just want to go through a couple of the comments and answer a couple of the questions real quick. That seems like a bit. Angry Bird GTI says, is it worth double Urus, twice as good as a 707? This is a question about value. So objectively, no. It's not twice as good as those cars. And in fact, in some ways, it's worse than those cars.
Because the Urus drives very well.
It does drive great. Particularly the non-Performante drives amazing. And the ZBX 707 also drives amazing. And now that it has the new interior from the DB12, that's my choice for the super SUV. But in order to answer that question, you have to go into the mindset of the person buying one of these. And the person buying one of these is not looking for value. It's not traditionally when you're in a capitalist economy, it's how much value can I get for how little money, right? But we're post capitalism right now. And billionaires who are buying this stuff are not looking to get value for money. What they're looking for is to spend more so that you know they spent more. I was talking to some people who build some very well-known customized 911s. You may have heard of them. And the owner of this company was saying that their clients are competing to spend more. They find out that this guy's build costs $900,000. Well, my build better cost over $1 million. The next guy finds out that my build cost $1 million. Well, what can I do to make mine 1.2? It's inverse, right? Spending more is the goal, not a side effect of getting something better. So, and you'll see it when these start getting flipped. It's going to be, well, this is the highest specification possible. 350,000 in options. And so the regular folks are going to ask questions like, well, is this twice as good as this other thing? Yes, if your goal is to spend twice as much money. Right. That's the goal.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Because it's
regular people can't process that.
It's just an immeasurable question. You know, is it worth $2 times? Like the Urus is a very good super SUV, as is the 707.
But an Urus isn't twice an RS Q8. It's maybe 10% better than an RS Q8.
Yeah.
For double the money.
Right.
So like, Otto Hoffs, does it feel like it has a Ferrari soul? Yes, it does, actually. I think it does genuinely feel like a Ferrari. Semi-Private John, what is the ideal use case for it? A daily, a Ferrari you take to the ski resort? Ski resort Ferrari, I would say yes.
He has towing your boat. I'd say definitely not.
I don't think it will tow.
I'm sure it has some limit, but like the power band is not for that.
Yeah. Let's see. Turbo 6 Productions, is it worth a premium over a used Lusso?
I mean, the premium. So what this does do better is the rear steer is much better on this than the last Lusso I drove. The Lusso I drove did the thing we hate where it felt like it was adding too much rear steer when I wasn't expecting that amount. Yeah. And the back felt like it was disconnected from the front. I hated it.
Let's see. Doug D. Gargano 63. Is it really an SUV or more of a lifted Ferrari wagon? It to me does not feel like a quote SUV. I parked one next to a Macan, and it's only slightly longer and about the same height as a Macan. So I think it's a crossover. It's firmly crossover.
Yeah.
It does not feel like a proper SUV. Gavin Sullivan, how much does a curbed wheel cost to fix? A fucking fortune. Those wheels are really expensive. Although there is a function to these wheels. They suck heat away from the brake and into that sort of carbon arch that goes around the wheel well.
Which has these cool, beautiful cuts in it to extract the air. Like that, the air management, I think, is really good looking on this car.
Yeah. That dude, Pasha, how many cat carriers will fit in the back? Several. Biggest trunk ever in a Ferrari, and you can fold the rear seats down totally flat. You could haul a bunch of stuff in this thing.
So many cats.
Yeah.
Probably a tiger.
Yeah. Having said that, I used the DBX 707 for moving when I moved 2 years ago, and you could fit a crazy amount of shit in the back of a DBX 707 with the seats folded down. Two more. Can you hit the little plus there, Zach? Let's see what else we got. Let's see. Oh, do we keep going? Oh, this is just, it's just not.
It's glitching.
It's glitching? Oh. Let's see. Why did somebody overheat one of these? Why are people asking about overheating?
They tagged Throttle House. Maybe theirs overheated.
I mean, we drove it up. When we filmed it, it was hot as fuck.
Yep.
And, speaking of which, we didn't overheat it. It seems to run fine. But Ferrari warned us 3 times that you cannot leave the doors open with the engine off for more than 10 minutes or it will kill the battery, which to me is insane. I don't understand how you design a car like that, particularly when I was warned the same thing about the 296 GTB 2 years ago, and they then came out with another car that does the same thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I know there's more and more draw with more and more systems. I mean, the suicide doors, like they have electronic actuators that open them for you. There's a lot more power that this thing needs, but can we get a bigger battery or 2 batteries or something? Because if you were loading up for a ski trip when you have kids,
yeah,
that could easily take more than 10 minutes. You got the doors open, you're going back and forth, someone calls your phone, and then the battery's dead.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a problem.
Or the car could be getting detailed. I mean, an interior detail on a car takes a lot more than 10 minutes. You're telling me I need to run the car while I'm doing that? Fuck that.
Right. If you're detailing things indoors.
Yeah.
I mean, even here where it's like fairly open, you wouldn't run the car.
I'm not going to run the car the whole time I'm doing a detail.
So do you have to put it on a tender for that?
I guess, but like why? One thing would be a bigger battery or multiple batteries. The other answer is why doesn't it just shut down on its own before? I mean, it has an automatic lock. If I close the doors and I let it sit there for 5 minutes, it will lock. Okay, so there is a function for a timer but like you're telling me with the doors open, it won't just go shutting off.
Right. There's clearly a way to turn it off because when you lock it, it's not like you have to start it within 9 minutes.
Yeah.
So why can't it just do that?
This doesn't make any sense.
I don't know.
Yeah. It doesn't. It makes that. That's the thing. That is not a luxury experience for an everyday type of car.
Worrying about something is not a luxury experience, other than your inflation and your capital escaping going to other people.
Right. Yeah.
Let's see. Dan McKenna says Throttle House's press car overheated on the press launch.
Oh, okay.
They fixed it, I guess.
All right. Yeah, I guess it.
Will they fix this one or this one?
I mean, I don't know. This one didn't have a problem, and we drove it on 2 very, very hot days, and I mean, I don't know. Yeah. I suppose it's a thing that can happen, but it didn't happen to us. Let's see. Do we want to talk about the C63 now, or should we wait for next show?
I think we should wait.
Okay.
We've done 45 minutes.
Okay,
so
cool.
When we have some questions.
Shout out to the Gaslight Anthem, who were great at the House of Blues.
Oh, you went and saw them?
I went and saw them. They were awesome. Cool. They were awesome. Great band. Very underrated.
Real quick, I want to show you this WhistlinDiesel video. So WhistlinDiesel got a Cybertruck. And
okay.
proceeded
Before
to
you do
drive
that,
the hell
though,
out
just
of
pull
it.
up the photo of that Land Cruiser. Just go. If anyone's interested in 80 series Land Cruisers, that's like the 90s ones. We're selling one right now at Westside for one of our clients. Go look at my Instagram.
That's pretty
It's
perfect.
on Bring a Trailer. It has 300,000 miles on it, but it has a new engine that the owner only put 28,000 miles on it.
This is like
it's
perfect looking.
impeccably restored and serviced. It's so nice.
Talk about meaty fitment, though. This is the right tire wheel ratio.
37s on there.
Yeah, but it looks so good.
Yeah, it looks great. And so it's no reserve on Bring a Trailer right now until this coming Sunday, which is the 10th.
Rutledge should buy it. He commented.
Rutledge commented and should buy it. Yeah, it's a really nice build, and it would cost a lot of money to replicate. Okay, the WhistlinDiesel thing. Yeah, a lot of people sent me this video. I haven't gotten to watch it yet. Will you explain, Zach?
So I'll show it to you. So I got tagged in this thing on Twitter. Someone said WhistlinDiesel ripped the rear subframe off his Cybertruck trying to tow a stuck F-150. But there was a lot more to that. But this is the clip that went around, and then it got shared, and then the story kept going. So
that's right where it yanked.
Right. So he's towing it with a chain, which a lot of people commented is not great. It's not actually great for towing, but the truck should not have sustained this kind of damage. The F-150 kind of hangs up for a second.
Yeah.
And then
is the F-150 there trying to reverse off of those things, or
they were trying to show it was stuck.
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't tug of war. They were just saying like, look, the F-150 can't get off of these concrete pipes, so we need to tow it with the like here it's pulling.
Oof, that was a heavy jerk.
Heavy jerk, and there's no elasticity to that cable.
Yeah.
But then I read further down in the thread, and before they did this, they drove the Cybertruck off of one of those concrete pipes, and when it came down, because the departure angle is quite poor in this for a truck, it smashed the bumper and the rear subframe on a piece of concrete. So that might have weakened it. So I think people need to know that context, because the way this is going around is the only thing that happened to this is it tried to tow this truck and it ripped the rear subframe off. Now, that said, a lot of people have commented that the type of aluminum that's used to make this rear subframe is a brittle type of aluminum that does not handle shocks very well.
Yeah.
Whereas a body-on-frame truck, like that Ford or other things, like they have a steel frame. Usually the towing system is also steel. People also notice that the bolts that we're holding on the tow kit for the Cybertruck don't have their grade stamped on them, which they're supposed to. So they're like, what strength are these bolts? So there's a lot of interesting things that get revealed when you rip off half of this truck and you start looking at how it's constructed.
I mean, are there people that think that this is like a good truck and not like a fashion accessory?
Well, yeah, because I think it's proposed that way. And the other reason I want to say that is because someone else did a video where they went to a tractor pull contest and the Cybertruck pulled like 3,300 pounds. So like it can tow, but if it endures some sort of shock or like some sort of thing like this,
but
it weakens
there's like humans that tow airplanes with their teeth. I mean, towing a bunch of weight a short distance is not. That's like a good visual, but that's not actually representative of anything.
And I also think that what this did driving off the concrete pipe is not that odd. Like if you took your lifted truck to Moab or something, it is very possible that you would have that kind of situation as well. So it just seems like, people believe the manufacturer, right? And I think now they are learning through these different experiments out there, like, that there are problems with it. Like we learned you can, peel a cucumber with the inside of the door, which is not in the brochure.
I mean, at this point, if you believe Tesla, you are such a sucker. I mean, you're just your brain is made of Jell-O.
Well, but like, look, man, if the tow rating, if they say it can tow like 11,000 pounds,
right?
One
would
assume
a company
they've tested.
They also
this
said the fucking vehicle's range was like 400 miles. They also said it could do all these things. I mean, that have been observably false.
That's very true.
And so, at a certain point, they've been crying wolf over there for fucking ever. You just can't. You want to use it as a fashion accessory? Fucking knock yourself out. Roll up Rodeo. I'll roll my eyes at you, and some fucking vapid idiot might care. But like, that's not a serious truck. It's not for serious truck things.
Right. It seems like that is what is getting proven. More and more.
Well, that should have been incredibly obvious. I mean, anyone who has a fucking 4 brain cells should be able to put together that this is not a serious piece of equipment for serious people.
I mean, people you want to believe the manufacturer when they say the thing can do X, Y, Z.
Oh, for sure. You want to believe.
You want to,
but when a manufacturer lies to you about capabilities for like a decade.
Right. I know.
And your car will go out while you're asleep and make money for you. It'll be a robo-taxi. Will it?
It's a boat.
Will it? Yeah. It'll float.
So anyway,
it'll float briefly.
I mean, if you want to watch him destroy this thing, of course, there's a 20-minute video on it. But that was the story that was going around Twitter.
Wow. 10 million views in 3 days. Jesus, breaking. You know what's funny? I bet you. We'll see how many it gets eventually, but that might not even be profitable. If you destroy that truck and they don't, it's not a warranty claim. I bet he loses money on that.
Oh, because the rev share is not high enough to pay for the truck.
Yeah, if you wreck a $100,000 truck, yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what the finances are like on the back end of Whistling but it's quite the video. They rip panels off the trim along the roof. He just pulls it back and it's just glued on. And it's a lot of interesting things.
It's a serious piece of hardware for serious people, that truck. Anyway. Good times. Let's go to the Patreon and see what they have to say. Please, if you want to support the show, we would appreciate the Patreon because honestly, summer ad sales are fucking rough across the industry. We've talked to a variety of content creators, and they are fucking hurting right now. I don't know if it's we've already gone through every possible fucking advertiser, but I've talked to a bunch of people who make videos recently, and everybody is struggling. And so if you can get in that Patreon, we would very much appreciate it. It would be a lot of support to us when the ad sales economy is in the shitta. Patreon.com/thesmokingtirepodcast is where to do it. Dre in Houston says, Car movie related question. Besides Alex Cross, who I don't know who that is, what other fictional character's hero car was a Porsche? Well, you've got Will Smith in Bad Boys. You've got Risky Business. Right?
Yeah,
Tom Cruise.
924?
Fucking Tony Montana. Has a bulletproof 928.
I feel like it's, Bad Boys is the one for me, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who else has I don't know of other 911s or...
Gone in 60 Seconds. They steal that one, the Carrera, and they jump it through the window. It's not the hero car.
Oh, yeah, 996.
They run from the police.
They do steal a 996, yeah. There's, Sully in Commando, but it's not a hero car. It's a hero car once Schwarzenegger rolls it back over.
That's right. Oh, I tried.
Remember?
I watched that movie.
Commando.
It is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a must-see.
It is ridiculous.
But once he goes, well, take his car and rolls it back over onto its
over
wheel.
a cliff.
Then it becomes a hero car.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like a 75
with a tacked
Targa.
On wing.
Yeah, ugly wing.
Big wing. Yeah.
Sanjay, July, I think is their name. Cayman GT4 and 996 GT3 are similarly priced these days. As a third or fourth car, which would you recommend from a pure driving experience standpoint?
Oh, that's
I would have the Cayman GT4. I think I know people would disagree. The 996 GT3s are pretty rough.
They're very stiff.
They're super, super stiff. They're nice cars. I know people who have them and love them, but they're super stiff. A Cayman GT4 is a little more usable.
Yeah, it is. I was shocked, man. I drove one in Germany, and those roads are smooth.
Yeah.
But I was like, damn, this is
they're
aggressive.
Stiff. Yeah. I'd probably rather have the Cayman, but I wouldn't fight you if you if you preferred the 996 GT3. Nice car. Let's see. Ivan says, Nissan was praised for making the Z from scratch and not a rebranded model from the Supra, like the Supra. Although this was good, the car can't actually compare to a Supra and gets beaten on almost every metric. Several journalists call it a mediocre attempt. Do people still think that Toyota did wrong here by borrowing a platform, or was it better than the Nissan's effort? Well, there's a couple of things. We got to correct some words here. It's the Supra is not rebranded. It's co-developed with BMW. So the Z4 and the Supra, co-developed platform. And the Z wasn't made from scratch. It was a heavily revised version of the 370Z platform with a new motor from the Infiniti Red Sport, right? So the car, the Nissan gets beaten on almost every metric. That assumes you care about that, which maybe you do, maybe you don't. If a Supra is faster than a Z, that only matters if you're racing a Supra against a Z. If you're not, you may not care. I would argue that the car's character is more important than whether it's faster than its, quote, competition. That's just my argument. Several journalists call it a mediocre attempt. That's fair. I happen to actually enjoy the Z. I thought it was nice to drive. I thought the Nismo Z, despite being automatic, was really nice to drive. And I personally think the fact that it does feel like a unique car, as we just talked about this with the Purosangue as well, that it does feel like very much a Nissan built by passionate Nissan people. I think there is value there. Did Toyota do the wrong thing by sharing platform with the Z4? The market doesn't seem to think so. I've seen plenty of people with Supras that
I've seen way more Supras than Zs.
Yeah.
I saw my first new Z this weekend that I've seen in the wild.
I've seen a couple of them. We saw one crashed on a flatbed coming back from the thing the other day. I think both cars are good. I think with the Z, you want to get either the highest performance one that you can get, and I hope they come out with a Nismo manual. That would be really, really nice, because that Nismo is actually a really nice car to drive. Just had the Z4 manual, Handschalter, hand shift. And what a phenomenal car to drive that was. That's my favorite BMW right now. And we'll have a video coming out with that, but that actually is my favorite BMW on sale right now. So I don't know. I mean, it depends where your value system is. Do you care that the Supra is faster than the Z? I don't know. Maybe not. Do you care?
Not really, because I'm not racing things. Yeah. I've never driven the new Z, so I don't know how it feels or anything. You've been very complimentary to it.
I think it's nice. Yeah. I mean, it's not perfect. I think it's in the same thing as like a Mustang GT, where it sort of has to be sporty but also daily usable. So it's sprung and damped pretty soft for everyday driving. Could you get a set of fucking Ohlins or KWs and dial it in the rest of the same thing with like a BRZ or whatever? Like you can do stuff with it that'll narrow the focus if that's what you want. Out of the box, objectively, yeah, I think the Supra is probably a little better with a stick. It's also substantially more expensive.
It's like 10 grand more?
Yeah, Supra is like 10 grand more. You take 10 grand, you put it into the Z, you're probably in the same place. But I like the Nissan. I think it's a nice car.
Yeah, the Supra manual starts at $56,000.
Yeah, the Nissan starts in I think the Nissan, how much is the highest non-Nismo? The Nismo is in the 60s. But I think the Z Performance manual high 40s
starts at 43.
Yeah,
for the manual transmission starting.
You might be able to knock on the door of 50. I think 50 is about as high as a non-Nismo gets. There was like an anniversary one or something, but that doesn't count. I mean like regular production.
A Nissan Z Performance manual starts at 53.
Yeah, okay, so it's $5 grand cheaper than the Supra. So I don't know. I think they're both nice. Good question. Would driver safety improve if cars had a U-turn signal?
I don't think so.
I don't think we need I don't think that's a hardware solution. I think that's a use your eyes and your common sense solution.
Yeah, and if you're approaching a car and they have a turn signal on and they're turning, whether they're turning left or U-turning, you need to adjust your driving to them. I don't think I would change my behavior much if it was like, oh, they're making a U-turn now. Well, now I'm going to stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Darian Lux, are you familiar with the Pittsburgh Vintage Grand Prix? Have you attended or would you attend? I've heard great things about it. It seems really nice. I can't imagine if it's a gig, if there's a reason to go, but I'm not flying to Pittsburgh to watch racing as a vacation. But if you want me there, hire us. Let's go do a live show. Sponsors, you want to do a Smoking Tire podcast live at Pittsburgh Vintage Grand Prix?
This is like East Coast, Goodwood.
Yeah, it's cool.
Revival?
Everyone says it's good. And cool. And Cody, Dr. M3, has invited us every single year. But like I tell him every single year, like there's got to be a gig in it. Otherwise, I'm not going to go to Pittsburgh. Watching racing isn't something I get on a plane for. Not to be snobby, but it's just like we live cars all day. Sean Finney, what happened to the manual Z4? I made a video with it. It's in the queue. We've made so many videos.
We have like 18 videos to edit.
We have
something.
It's not that many.
It's over 12.
Really?
For sure.
Jesus.
100%.
Okay, I'll edit. I'll edit one. I have some time. I'll edit one.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, we shot a lot of videos because
Summer's always busy. There's press launches. There's more cars.
Yeah.
We have like a lull month and we book a ton of stuff and then things get offered to us. It's all the same thing.
Yeah. So number two, we've talked before about how electric cars are democratizing a more luxurious driving experience. What provides a more luxurious daily driving experience? A new mid-tier electric car or a lightly used high-end internal combustion car like an S-Class or an A8?
I still think S-Class or A8. You're still sitting in it. You're still touching things and looking at things.
I think you're probably right, but a $50,000 to $60,000 EV is more luxurious than a $70,000 to $80,000 new gas car.
Yes.
Like I remember going from, I want to say it was like a shit. I mean, it was something like from maybe it was, I think it was when I had the Mach-E press car before I bought it. The next week, I had an RS7 Audi. And it just felt so unrefined by comparison. It was really interesting. Like, it's so...
In terms of your experience of like sitting in it, engine on, propulsion.
Yeah.
Not like...
Just like not having vibrations or noise or gear changing or whatever. I mean, even after going from the Purosangue, I now have a Mach-E Rally. In a lot of ways, the Mach-E Rally feels more luxurious, because it's easier. It's easier to use all the functions. The power is smooth and silent. Things fucking work. Like just like little bullshit is just I don't have to think about. Compared to this very expensive exotic thing that costs literally 10 times as much.
Mm-hmm.
But. Yeah, full-size internal combustion sedan like an S-Class or an A8, that's pretty luxurious.
Yeah. I mean, just everything you interact with other than the vibration coming through the engine is going to feel way nicer than the $50,000 EV.
Yeah. But it definitely is. Like I'm not sure, like previously, let's just say semi-luxury cars, like the gas-powered 5 Series or A6 or E-Class with the V6, like a $10,000 or $15,000 cheaper EV will feel more luxurious than those cars in a lot of ways.
It's like staying at a less expensive hotel, but it's like up in the mountains,
right?
And it's quiet there, and you're like, oh, it's not fancy here, but it's very peaceful.
Yeah.
Versus a Ritz-Carlton that is in the middle of a city, and you can still hear traffic noise and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah. The Holiday Inn in Aspen versus the Ritz-Carlton in downtown LA.
Right. Yeah.
That's good. Very good, Zach. Scrollski, please. H. Foley's freestyle mixtape. From an outside perspective, there are skills that are obviously useful to your jobs: driving, writing, editing videos, etc. What less obvious skills have you found to be the most useful? Less obvious skills.
I think being able to adapt to situations when we've been on shoots or schedules change, like we've had to adjust all kinds of things: the car we're shooting, or how we're doing it, or where we're doing it, and, or adjust a script or something like that. Just being able to adapt to
flexibility.
A day. Absolutely.
Yeah. Time management. I mean, we're shockingly efficient when it comes to the use of our time. So there's that. Knowing where is a good place to invest resources and where is not a good place to invest resources is probably a good one. Having no shame when it comes to selling stuff or doing ads.
A thickening skin, because not everyone has a job where you're getting feedback from your customers, let's call it,
all the time,
and hundreds of thousands of them. So,
yeah, I mean the other ones are pretty obvious. There's video editing, composing a shot, knowing what kind of gear you need, what kind of gear you can skip, that sort of stuff is also helpful. And also just perseverance and commitment, you have to do a lot of work to start getting paid, a lot of front loading, someone came up to me, not someone literally scheduled a meeting with me, and it was through a friend. And so I agreed to give this person an hour of time. And it's a very wealthy, the son of a very wealthy person whose father you would know. And he wants to be a content creator. And I literally gave him the playbook. Here's what you do. And he really did not like the idea of building a resume of skills and learning to edit, learning to host, learning to shoot, learning to do this, learning to figure out how to get people to give you their cars to drive. I mean, I told him, here's literally the 30 skills you will need. And he listened, But I spoke to someone who spoke to him afterwards, and he did not like the idea of having to learn all those things and sort of wanted to skip straight to the end. And I said, good luck. Michael Cosgrove says, now that, he says other things, but now that Nicole has passed, does Jay Ryan still plan to get things running up at Newcomb's Ranch? Yes. And he will, as I imagine, be fully committed to it. Drew says, I can't help but notice the trend of automakers shrinking the size and moving the backup lights on their cars inboard, or worse, placing them in the lower sections of bumpers. This obstructs or removes them from line of sight in many parking lot situations, especially when backing up and looking through your rearview mirror. Am I failing to adapt, or is this as stupid as I think it is? I think a couple things are happening. One, those little LEDs are probably as bright as the original incandescent lights were. Two, it frees them up to change the design of the taillights themselves without having to incorporate the light into the taillight. Mm-hmm. And three, the dark vision of backup cameras is better than it was. And so you go, well, is that light designed to actually illuminate what's behind you, or is it just designed so that if someone back there is standing back there, they'll see that you're in reverse?
Good question. It definitely used to be to illuminate what was behind you,
right? But
now, the cameras can adjust so well.
Yeah,
you'll definitely see better using the camera than looking over your shoulder.
Yeah.
And I still, when I back up, if I can see, I still use my mirrors. I still scan around because it's like I'm used to it from valet days.
Yeah.
And I don't always trust the lines of the camera. I mean, I'm just not used to it. But if it's nighttime, you're backing up, like backup camera all day.
Yeah, I understand what you're coming from, but I think as far as being the person driving the car, I think a camera that's optimized for low light is better than having bright lights and no camera. Mm-hmm. Or a bad camera.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see.
Don't have me. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know about that one. Flannel Bob, what are your top wide open throttle experiences in your life is that like literal or metaphorical? Like, no, I'm serious.
Literal.
Like top 5 like pulls in wide open throttle, or like top 5 like really going for it.
When we had the 812 Superfast, I still remember it very clearly where I went and the experience of the noise and how Sarah laughed. I was like, "Welcome to V12 world."
Yeah,
and that was her first experience riding in a V12.
Yeah,
and that was pretty seared in my brain.
Yeah,
so that was a pretty good wide open throttle moment.
Hennessy Venom GT certainly comes to mind.
Yeah, that video was rad.
That Honda N600 with the motorcycle engine in it that revved to like 12 and felt like a mini F1 car.
I wonder.
I would say the Calvo Motorsports 2,000 horsepower Viper. That's up there. I mean, really, the first time I did like the first time I did a quarter mile run in the Rimac Nevera, I ran an 8-second quarter mile in Malibu.
I think climbing that hill in All Cars Go to Heaven when I had it pinned and I was just literally bouncing off rocks just to make it up this hill.
Yeah,
that was pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Strangely, the Hummer EV, because it was wet and the thing like leans down and then does 0 to 60 in 3.2 seconds. I was like, what the hell? What is this building?
Watch the freedom.
Yep.
Watch the freedom.
Yeah.
Thomas E says, is the CLE much of an upgrade from the C-Class coupe convertible? It looks similar. I mean, it's the new C-Class convertible. It's just that CLE is the nomenclature now. That's what they're calling those coupes across the board. Okay. Honda Fit Guy says, I've heard you mention that the Porsche e-turbo is revolutionary, but was wondering if you knew that F1 engines have had this since 2014. Yes, I did know that, and Mercedes which uses an e-turbo in the C63 that we just drove, and we'll talk about next episode. You know, they say that they've invented that technology. I'm not necessarily sure that Porsche claims to have invented the technology.
Well, I think, doesn't it come from Bosch or somebody?
I mean, Mitch said he developed that e-turbo for Bosch.
You know,
so it's probably usually from a supplier.
Like, no disrespect to Mercedes or Porsche, like usually the companies that focus on manufacturing turbines will build the thing. I mean, you know, they're all trying to move the ball forward too, to then sell a new product to the companies that buy their turbochargers.
Right.
I do remember when Mercedes split the turbos, the cold and the hot side one year, and for the next couple of years in F1, they fucked everybody up. It's like, oh, you're making way more power. It was brilliant.
Yeah,
and the shaft was quite long.
Yeah, and with the e-motor, it's split pretty far. Also, it's split a few inches away, which does make a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that is definitely the future of turbocharging, certainly at the high end. I mean, it allowed Porsche, and well, with the Mercedes, it's a 4-cylinder, so there only would have been one turbo anyway, but it allowed Porsche to go from 2 turbos to 1 turbo, which is massive weight savings. Mm-hmm. And that 1 turbo is larger, so you have more power at the high end as well. I mean, it's very smart.
It's really rad.
Yeah, it's great. K Cars says, are there any websites that aggregate the maintenance cost of certain cars? There aren't, as far as I know. That does seem like it would be a good thing, but you would need users to input that data.
Yeah, I think, you know, there's websites, larger websites that will say, oh, average maintenance as the car ages, but it's only, I think it's based on service records and appointments from dealerships. Once the car is like 10 or more years old, or it's an enthusiast automobile, then it would have to be self-reported and on forums. And we all, you know I have definitely adjusted the numbers a little bit when I'm like, oh no, it only cost me this much to maintain it that last year, but I'm skipping some parts or something like that. You know, so people, or if someone does the work themselves versus if you have to go have a shop do it. I mean, that can be the difference of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
So it'd be kind of tough to track that.
But it is also possible to call an independent shop and say, hey, look, here's, you know, what are the services that this car needs every year, every 5 years, and what do you charge for those? And you could come up with a best case scenario and a worst case scenario. Mm-hmm. You know, if you wanted to. It's not the question. The question is about aggregating data. But if you were really interested in figuring out the maintenance costs, you could at least get a worst case scenario and then just make sure you have that.
That's the Ed Bullion move, right? He's like, I assume if it's the worst, it'll cost this much.
Yeah.
And if anything else, if any of those things are not broken, I'm winning.
Yeah. Ed is a very smart guy. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a reason he's fucking Rico Suave over there. And I was in his new car, and it was nicer than you would think, considering its past life.
He hasn't revealed it yet, right?
No, but I did go. Go for a ride in it, and it's something.
It's cool.
It's definitely something. Is this the last one?
Yes.
Chris Navio says, if you were Aston Martin working on the next Bond film, would you develop a one-off concept car like the DB10 from Spectre, or use the Bond film as a platform to release a new car like the DBS successor? I would definitely be using production cars. You want Bond driving something that people can buy.
I feel like with DB10, oh, that's that one.
The DB10 became the Vantage.
Yeah.
But it was like,
well, it seems like in the past they've used that opportunity to show off their upcoming design language, but it's still like 5 years out or something like that. Like
only
the 177.
That one time.
Remember what was the Bond car with the 177 fenders? Like they had a car in Bond that was like, oh, this kind of looks really cool and interesting, but then I think they turned into ones. I think so.
No, they had a DBS, they had Vanquish. Are you not thinking of the DB10? The DB10 was. Am
I thinking DB10?
The DB10 was the concept car that became the Vantage, the current Vantage.
Oh, maybe I'm getting mixed up. I mean,
I don't think they ever had anything like a 177 in a Bond movie.
Gotcha. Okay. Ultimately, it's about selling product, right?
Yeah.
So if your product has been on the shelf for 6 years, they'd probably show something new,
right.
even if it's a concept. But if the car is brand new, then they go, here's the thing you can buy, and it's in stores now. Like, go get it.
Yeah, but like, God, the amount of reliance on fucking Bond that Aston Martin has. I mean, it's unbelievable.
It's got to be the most successful commercial ever.
Dude, I don't think they print it anymore, but for a long time I was a subscriber to Vantage magazine, which is the Aston Martin like quarterly magazine. Every issue, every single one had a Bond article in it. Every fucking one. I mean, I don't want to say it's all they've got because the cars are nice, but like, fuck me.
Does any other manufacturer have that kind of cachet with a fictional character? I doubt it.
With a fictional character?
I mean, the closest thing I can think of is Ferrari, and that's a real person. That's like Enzo, and that's racing heritage and lineage. But
manufacturer. I mean, maybe you could talk about Eleanor's and Gone in 60 Seconds. That's not a manufacturer, but maybe.
I mean, I don't think anything else like this has existed. I mean, the Iron Man with the R8 thing, but that was once.
That was brief.
This is like 60 years.
This is it's
60-year-long ad campaign, and it works.
Yeah. What other movie character has gone that long? It's got to be the longest running franchise ever.
I mean, Superman's been around a long time.
He flies. He don't need a car.
Oh, right. Hey, man, I'm just you ask characters.
Superman picks cars up and throws them. He doesn't drive.
Italian Job, but that's. I mean, they relaunched it, but that's only 2 movies.
They did well for the minis, but that's one movie and one remake. Yeah,
I don't think there's any. It's probably Batman. That might be.
Yeah.
That and like Mission Impossible, but those are only 30 years running. I mean, Ian Fleming wrote these books, in the 50s, 60s? Yeah. So it's probably the longest running movie franchise.
Yeah, I mean, what a fucking gift to Aston Martin that is, you know what I mean?
I think Aston Martin pays for that gift.
They probably do.
The longest movie franchises of all time. James Bond, Planet of the Apes, Sherlock Holmes, but that took a break.
Yeah.
The new ones are good, but okay.
Yeah,
James Bond.
I mean, if you're Aston Martin, man, you got to definitely be having product that customers can buy, because that's why they're fucking buying them. They're buying them every time I drive the Vanquish. Someone says some Bond shit to me every time, like Back to the Future too.
All the other competition in this list of movies started in the 80s. Bond is so far ahead.
Yeah. That is our show for today. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for some great questions. If you're not yet on the Patreon, we'd appreciate it. Patreon.com/The Smoking Tire Podcast. We got tomorrow is going to be fun because we're going for a ride. We don't get to drive it. I'm a little sour about that, but we're going for a ride up the mountain with Dario Franchitti in the Gordon Murray T50, which, I mean, should still be pretty fun. And then Dario's going to come back to the studio here and do some radio with us. So that will be excellent. Also, Monday, this week from today, Monday the 12th, we got James May in studio.
Yeah.
Talking about James Gin.
I love gin. I truly do.
I hope he brings us a bottle. We could sample some in the afternoon. Some day drinking with James May would be very fun. And I finally heard back from one Tiff Nadell, who will not be able to come to the studio. It's going to be that'll be a call in, but we'll get that done the second half of the month. And Gareth Reynolds will be joining us in studio. So it's actually quite a big month of guests here. So if you want to get your questions in for any of those characters, something tells me we won't be getting to questions with James May, but hopefully he's got some time for us. Yeah, that's our show. See you tomorrow. Bye.